Hey, welcome back to Gear Talk. This is a Noria podcast where we are connecting reliability professionals with reliable information. Of course, I'm your host, Wes Cash, and today we have Scott Fry, the Director of Workforce Development at MidAmerica Industrial Park out of Pryor. And of course, the whole workforce development is a big topic. We know that there's a lot of people out there that are struggling to find skilled professionals to walk in the door. So I think this is going to be a really good podcast. And of course, since part of this podcast is making sure that people understand from the person who is giving us the information, Scott, I'd like you to give a little bit of an introduction if you don't mind.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me, Wes. Looking forward to the conversation, and workforce is definitely near and dear to my heart. I've been involved in it for a little over 30 years now. So I've been with MidAmerica Industrial Park for approximately 10 years, coming up on 10 years here pretty quick. But I've been in the park for 23. So previous to MidAmerica Industrial Park, I was with Oklahoma State University Institute of Technology, preparing technical workers for the field, and worked almost 20 years there. And previous to that role, I spent 7 years in manufacturing, glass manufacturing specifically. So been around it, and I understand the need for technical workers, and look forward to the conversation.
So obviously over that kind of span, you've probably seen quite a bit of change in the people that may be even applying and trying to get, entry level positions in some of these companies. I mean, what did it look like, let's say, 20 something years ago versus today? What are your customers or some of the manufacturers in the area running into?
Yeah, certainly. And I think if we look back, definitely things have changed a lot. And I think a lot of it is perceptions about the careers. I mean, at MidAmerica Industrial Park, we're approximately 65% manufacturing. We've got about 5,000 workers. So they're all involved in an industrial role of some type. Mm-hmm. And so we've definitely have suffered with image and perception issues, right, that kind of follow manufacturing traditionally.
Don't go there. You're stuck in the plant or something like that. Kind of that.
Correct.
It's almost been pushed upon us for a long time. If don't take those jobs, go to school, learn to do something else, get an office job or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Unfortunately, I think some of that perception is driven generationally, and so. Maybe there was a time where manufacturing was dark, dirty, dangerous, and dead-ended, right? And it's just not the case anymore.
Sure.
And very high-tech industries and environments, and need for skilled workers is extremely high. But I think when you think about young people making their decisions about their future, the people that influence those decisions probably have an antiquated perception of what those opportunities are. So we've been working extremely hard over the last 20 years, really, to address those perception issues. And one of the things that we do is connect very closely with our educational community.
Okay.
We've been doing educator camps since 2008, and so we do those every summer. So we'll host about 50 educators, whether those are teachers, counselors, administrators.
Is this high school level that you're doing that with?
Well, so we open it up to anybody. So we even have educators from the elementary level.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Us, which is great and fantastic, right? Because you never know who they're going to influence, right?
Sure.
And we also do it with workforce professionals, right? Because you've got, our American Job Centers, right, that are helping place people in jobs. We open it up to our staffing agencies, our Cherokee Nation Career Services professionals, et cetera, just anybody that might have an influence on placing people in jobs. And so they have the opportunity to tour companies, talk with the industry professionals, and learn about the careers and learn about the pay scales, et cetera. And I think through that work, as well as some of the investments that we've made in area schools around us, it's really had a positive impact on those perception issues that we've traditionally dealt with. And a lot of these schools and educators have become some of our best advocates, and are definitely driving some of the young people towards us now.
No, I think that's great. I read a lot of different articles and editorial and stuff where, it used to be blue collar and white collar, and now the term of new collar jobs, because like you said, the technology is advancing quite a bit. So it may not just be going and getting a pair of channel locks and a hammer to work on something. No, there's a lot of computer aspects of this. There's programming like PLCs and logic boards and things like that go on. And I think that's where you start to break that maybe that mindset that, man, that is just a very dark and dull job, like you were talking about. You're just going to be working with tools. It's going to be greasy and oily. To where, no, I mean, a lot of this is to keep the machines running and actually advancing quite a skill set. And these people are usually in pretty high demand.
Very high demand. That's absolutely correct. And and that's what we've kind of have put a lot of focus on, are those technical opportunities, right? Because I think it's a little bit more sexy, right? Because getting to work with the type of technologies that you're talking about is can be very attractive to some of these young people, because I think some of the things that they have interest in, they have aptitude in, is in direct alignment with the skill sets that we're talking about. And there's definitely a skills gap, and we've heard that term for 20 years now or more, and it's real. And it's just because we haven't had enough people going in that direction. And so I had mentioned a little bit about our investment in area school districts. And one of the things we did when I first arrived at MidAmerica Industrial Park is install some high-end STEM labs in the school districts. And we also kind of consider those to be our career centers. So they're all branded MidAmerica Industrial Park, but it's a place where we can go in and we can connect with the kids. We can work with them on projects. Same with our companies. They can go in, interact with the kids, and work with them on projects. But, it's a great setup because the kids have a chance to interface with a lot of different types of technologies. And so, it was our hope, number one, they become aware of MidAmerica Industrial Park.
Sure.
But number two, that they find aptitude and interest in that process. And then we can come in behind that and help them find career pathways that would lead to a career, a high-paying career that's in alignment with those interests.
And I can see the issue here, because MidAmerica Industrial Park is how many acres? I mean, it's a fairly expansive land, right?
Yeah. Largest industrial park in the state of Oklahoma at 9,000 acres. And so 9,000 acres is essentially, that is the boundaries of the industrial park, right?
Sure.
We have also been purchasing land adjacent to the park, and that property is designated for commercial development as well as real estate development. One thing that we have a shortage of in our community, and I think it's also an issue across the nation, is housing shortage.
Sure.
And so we don't have enough rooftops in our community, and so we're trying to facilitate that process to increase the number of rooftops and increase the number of people we have living in the locale.
So we have this big space. It's dominated by manufacturing. So now the next step is we've got to have a skilled workforce, and we've got to have these conduits to help funnel or lead these people in. So this is where the school and the STEM lab really kind of go hand in glove with the park itself.
Yeah, that's true. And it's on an annual basis. We make significant investments in three areas. One is park infrastructure. And so, we're responsible for the roads, we're responsible for the grounds, but we also own and operate the water treatment facility as well as the wastewater treatment facility. And so we provide treated water to every company in the park, 3 municipalities and 6 rural water districts. And so then, that's very important, obviously, the infrastructure at the park. The second would be workforce development. And so we make significant annual investments there, and we'll get into a little bit more of what we're doing in that particular realm. But then also in community and quality of life, right? So we want our area to be a place that's livable, by choice. I mean, we've got some great amenities. We've got some great lakes, rivers, and a lot of outdoor activities. But, we need things for people to do. And so about 5 years ago, we broke ground on what's called the district, and that's a mixed-use commercial area, restaurants, shops, an event space, et cetera. And so that was kind of the impetus of moving in that direction. What followed behind it was the development of some apartment complexes. So we have around 120. I say we purchased the land. We worked with a developer and incentivized them to, build the apartment complex there at the industrial park. And so those filled up immediately, and there's a waiting list for those.
Oh, wow.
And so it really,
quite the demand.
There's a lot of demand, and I think we've kind of had a challenge of convincing developers that the demand is there. It's kind of chicken before the egg. They want to see a big project happen before they make the investment. But I think this has given us that business case. And so we're just preparing for that first phase of single housing family development that's just, again, right there inside the park. And so we're excited about that. And another amenity that we helped facilitate just recently is a new child care center, and that was a partnership with Cherokee Nation. And so we donated them some land, and so they built a very, very nice child care development facility that will open up this June.
Man, that's cool, because obviously with the people coming in, you're trying to make it as holistic of a community as possible. And what I didn't realize is that you're also running some of the utilities of the area. So you're facing some of the same challenges that some of the manufacturers are with maybe finding staff, finding people, and everything else. So not only are you helping to try to improve it for them, but you're also, I'm sure, benefiting from the same work that you're doing yourself.
Mm-hmm. That's correct. Yeah, that's funny that you say that, because we just hired on some new operators at our plant. But one of those individuals was a student through our EET program. We've got an electrical electronics technology program that we operate out of our technical training center.
Okay.
That we call the MidAmerica Center of Excellence. So yeah, we were able to feed one of those students directly into our organization.
Well, that's cool. Let's talk about those centers of excellence, if you don't mind. So, like, obviously, electrical, you're talking about one. What all are you maybe helping skill up for the manufacturers?
Sure. If I could, what I might do is back up just a little bit. So while we have a physical center of excellence, there's also a concept, Centers for Workforce Excellence, that's across the state. There's currently 11 communities that have been awarded this designation. And so the whole designation, or the whole concept of the Centers for Workforce Excellence, is the alignment and leveraging of existing systems and resources. Okay. And so, for instance, within our system, some of our partners would include Northeast Technology Center, Rogers State University, OSU Institute of Technology on the educational side. Then on the career recruitment, talent acquisition side, it would be like the Oklahoma Employment Security Commission. Through the local American Jobs Center, it would be with the Cherokee Nation Career Services Group, which has a facility right there in the park. Just anyone who has anything to do with education and employment. And so we collaborate very closely and work together to make sure that we're taking advantage of the resources that are available to us and align them so that we're all, at the end of the day, meeting our common goals and objectives. But so we developed our Center of Excellence. We opened it in the spring of 2020. As a matter of fact, we opened it in March of 2020. So a few weeks later, we were shutting it down. But it was the previous OSU Institute of Technology facility, the campus there, the one that I ran for 13 years. And we repurposed it. And we worked with our companies when we did this to make sure that we had the types of programs that was going to develop the technical workforce that they needed, and that we had the type of equipment and technology that was in alignment with what is in place within their facilities.
Now, is that like you going and visiting these manufacturers? You bring them all together and just kind of say commonality across them? What are the types of skills and the attributes they would like to see in a workforce? Is that what's going on?
That's correct. So we rely heavily on advisory boards. And so we've got what we call our Center of Excellence Executive Leadership Group, right? So this is presidents, CEOs, plant managers of our organizations, and they really provide us with the strategic direction and support for the center. But then we break it down into subject matter expert areas. So we've got a machining manufacturing program. We've got an industrial maintenance program. We have an electrical electronics technology, a process technology, and a robotics program. And so with all those programs, what we do is bring in those subject matter experts on a regular basis. Especially up front, we might meet a couple times a month as we're aligning the curriculum, we're identifying equipment to put into our technical laboratories, and just, again, making sure that everything that we are doing is in direct alignment with what is demanded from those companies. And like you say, what we also try to do is make sure that it's applicable to all companies across the park. And industrial maintenance, for instance, it's a common thread. And so that's a pretty easy one. But we get into electrical electronics, it may differ a little bit from company to company.
Based on what they're doing, what they're manufacturing, of course.
Because, I mentioned we're 65% manufacturing, but we also have energy production through Grand River Dam Authority and their great facility. We also have Associated Electrical Co-op, has a dual cogen unit in the park. But then we're also home to the second largest Google data center in the world.
That's right.
Half of their workforce is facility data technicians. And so we just make sure that, our programs are developing those foundational skill sets. Regardless where they go, they're going to be applicable, but then they'll have advanced training opportunities to become more specific to their particular environments.
So if there's going to be people from, across the United States, probably across the globe, listen to the podcast, and they're going to be looking for skilled, solutions or skilled technicians, coming in. From your side, you're developing these people. Do you have any insight or maybe some watering holes that you should tell them to go look at or look for to help find staff?
As far as looking for people to come into it or staff to?
Yeah, people to come into their facilities. Obviously, not everyone has the luxury of having a MidAmerica Industrial Park next door. So, I mean, I'm sure there's probably some locales, or some different places. I know there's tech schools across the country that are doing various levels to this. But what do you think that would look like for a manufacturer to get involved in something like this?
Well, I think that's it, getting involved, right? And I talked about the collaboration that we have with the different organizations, and I think at the end of the day, teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Sure.
And it really takes all of us. And, I think when we do come together to solve some of these issues, I already mentioned it before, we meet our individual goals and objectives, but we collectively meet the goals and objectives of our ecosystem, of our community. And so I think that awareness is just so important, right? When we're trying to recruit talent, I think workforce development is a long game, right?
Yes, it is.
We can take a Band-Aid approach and we can do some things to meet immediate needs. But if you want to truly be successful for the long run, you have to be looking 10 years down the road. And so that third grader that we have in a Lego robotics program, he's going to be working age in, just a few short years, 10 years, and we're going to be looking to place him somewhere locally. So, and I've got several stories that I could point to where we've had individuals who we originally connected it with at that level, stuck with us through the variety of programs that we have in place. We have a STEM internship program for high school students. We have what we call MidAmerica Ambassadors. This is a team that has the opportunity to go through a lot of training at MidAmerica, but then they're responsible for peer-to-peer communication at their individual school districts.
Okay.
And they do a variety of programs every year to, again, create that awareness about MidAmerica Industrial Park and what those career opportunities are. We have a FIRST robotics team that's, we call it countywide, but if there's any kid from anywhere that wants to be a part of that team, we'd welcome with open arms, right? And so, again, it's just taking a lot of different looks at how you can connect with prospective workers, prospective influencers, because we're all probably giving advice to somebody down the road, right, as they consider their career as they grow older. Or maybe it's somebody that's already in the workforce looking for some opportunity to skill up and level up their wage potential too.
I think that's fantastic. And of course, the kids think that speaks to home because my son, he's in third grade and he's all about robotics right now and Lego robots and stuff. So, I mean, absolutely. And I mean, that's kind of what you see with some of the future of this. And speaking of the future of it, I mean, what do you think, as this is a process and it continues to evolve, what does the future of workforce development look like? Is it starting with earlier age kids? Is it expanding programs? Is it all of the above? What do you think?
It's definitely all of the above. And I think one thing that we try to focus when we think about the future is, making sure that we're ahead of the cycle a little bit. I talked about the different programs that we have in place at our Center of Excellence, and we're fortunate to have some great partners. I mentioned Northeast Tech, and I mentioned OSUIT and RSU, Rogers State University, and there's one specific program I'd like to talk about when we get a chance here in a second. But we've invested about $6 million in this center, and about 50% of that has been made possible through grants from various sources. And but we currently have a $4 million expansion project that we're kicking off this year. So we're going to add 6,000 square feet to our Center of Excellence, and what we're going to implement in that space is a smart factory. And that's the trend, right? I think that's the trend for manufacturing, and it's definitely a trend for an industrial park like ours, where we're located in a rural community. So we're 5,000 full-time employees. On top of that, we have probably 2,000 to 2,500 contract workers in place as well. So competition is fierce for that talent, and we're in a county of only 40,000.
Sure.
We start expanding that radius out. It gets much better. At about 45 miles, we're right at about 1 million people.
That hits Tulsa, I'm guessing.
Yeah. We start hitting Tulsa, et cetera. So we got a little better numbers, but what we do know is 50% of our workforce is coming within about 30 minutes to the park. So that's one of the reasons we've made the investments in the school districts. And, we've made investments in school districts up to an hour away from us, right? Because we know that's the future. But I think getting back to our expansion project in the smart factory, one of the solutions for our companies is automation. I mean, it's just a fact. It's like I said, competition is extremely fierce. And so automation is one of the solutions so that they're less reliant on labor. Mm-hmm. Which I think some people look at that and say, well, it's taking away jobs. And, it may be replacing jobs, but what it is replacing is, I think, jobs that are physically intensive, they're repetitive, et cetera, jobs that people may not necessarily like to do.
Sure.
So this automation can take that place. But when you implement that automation, one thing that you do need is the technical workers who can,
program, repair, whatever it may be.
Absolutely. And those guys make a lot of money, right? So at the end of the day, I think it's mutually beneficial, again, for everybody.
I got you. Well, Scott, I definitely appreciate it. Unfortunately, we're kind of running low on time here, but I'd love to have you back. And I know that we're going to be coming out and doing a lunch and learn with you as well. But before we head out, I want to give you any last words. Is there any key takeaways, anything that you would tell the listeners to the podcast?
Well, just, again, appreciate the opportunity for you guys having us today. And you mentioned the lunch and learn. I think that's another example of partnership, bringing resources to the companies that we serve. And again, I think if there's any words of wisdom, just that's probably it. Look for those partners that you can work with to move your particular community and ecosystem forward.
And it sounds like maybe don't be afraid to start young. Elementary isn't off limits, right?
Don't be afraid to try things. And that's what I got to give a lot of credit to our Chief Administrative Officer, Dave Stewart, who's been on board for about 13 years, and he's had a big vision, and he's the one that started the workforce initiative inside MidAmerica Industrial Park, and his thoughts are we'll try 10 things and maybe half of them will work, and that's okay.
That works.
Yep.
Well, Scott, definitely appreciate it. For everyone that has joined us, thank you again. This has been a Gear Talk podcast. Please like and subscribe. That really helps us out. And as always, if you have any questions, comments, or topics that you'd like discussed, feel free to reach out to us. Our email is podcast@nori.com. I'm Wes Cash, and we'll catch you on the next one.